during Qiyam, we came across a verse in Surah Yasin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discussing the day of judgment, He makes a interesting statement. He says, on this day, نختم على أفواههم, we will seal their mouths. وتكلمنا أيديهم, and their hands will speak. وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون, and their feet will give testimony to what they used to do and what they achieved. Many people who contemplate over this verse contemplate on the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that our feet and our hands will speak on that day. There's a even more interesting subtlety in this verse. Something very significant. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a statement, whenever He says something, it's never random. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have moments of randomness. Everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says and does is very calculated and measured. There's a purpose and a reason behind it. So had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have simply said, on that day, your limbs will speak against you. It's the essence of what the verse is saying. No, He makes a very interesting thing. He says, نَخْتِمُ عَلَىٰ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ, we will seal their mouths. That Allah is indicating to us that the danger of the tongue is so significant that even on the day of judgment, Allah is saying, I will seal their mouths because of the dangers, the ill effects of the tongue. It is so profound, the tongue, and it can cause such devastation. Allah makes particular note of it and says, on that day we're going to seal their tongues. They're not going to be able to speak. And so, as we were going through the verse, I thought to myself that it's so true. The tongue, like every other limb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us faculties of certain limbs. He gives us abilities over them, and we're able to use them for good or bad. But the tongue is such a limb that Allah has given us that at times, without knowing, the devastation that it causes is tremendous. It's ajib, it's strange. So much so that right now we're fasting, and our fasting consists of what? Not eating, not drinking, and for married people to stay away from their spouses. So, in previous ummams, what was the fast? Fasting of the tongue. The actual fast was not to speak because of the devastation that it causes. Ya Zakariya, inna nubashiruka bi ghulamin ismuhu Yahya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, I'm going to give you a child. In Surah Maryam, Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam says, Anna yakunu li ghulam, where am I going to have this child from Ya Allah? وَقَدْ بَلَغَنِيَ الْكِبَرُ وَامْرَأَتِي عَاقِرٌ, I've reached such an elderly age, and my wife, she's barren. So he says, قَالَ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ لِي آيَةً. He says, Allah, give me a sign. آيَتُكَ أَلَّا تُكَلِّمَ النَّاسِ ثَلَاثَ لَيَالٍ سَوِيًّا. What's the sign? You won't speak to anybody for 3 complete days. The actual sawm, the siyam, was of the tongue. Gosh, if only that was still applicable today. If only that practice was still for us today. The Prophet ﷺ, Sahibul Sharia, in a riwayat recorded by Imam Tirmidhi rahimahullah, he says, Man samata naja. Such 3 words he uses. He makes a statement of 3 words. He says, Man samata naja. The one who keeps quiet, keeps silent, he will be saved and successful. Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he relates a hadith. Says the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what amal, what deeds are those type that will lead the most people towards Jannah? What things? So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded, At-taqwa wa husnul khuluq. Taqwa, if we were to try and summarize taqwa, God consciousness, awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and husnul khuluq, good character. Allah subhanahu, the Prophet ﷺ sums up two things. Taqwa, your relationship with Allah. Husnul khuluq, your relationship with people. Islam it comprises of two things, not of one. It's not only your relationship with Allah. Before I digress. So, taqwa wa husnul khuluq. So then Mu'adh radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Ya Rasulullah, what's the deed that will take, what's the thing that will take most people to Jahannam? فَأَوْمَأَ إِلَى لِسَانِهِ. The Prophet ﷺ then pointed towards his tongue. Mu'adh radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, I asked the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, will we be taken into Jahannam because of what we say? Will we be admitted into Jahannam because of words that we utter and sentences that come out of our mouth? So the Prophet ﷺ said, ثَقِلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ يَا ابْنَ الْجَبَلِ وَهَلْ يَكُبُّ النَّاسِ عَلَى مَنَاخِرِهِمْ فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا حَصَائِدَ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. That, oh Mu'adh, is there anything else that will cause the son of Adam to be flung on his nose in the fire of Jahannam except what he says? إِلَّا حَصَائِدَ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ, the fruits, the crops of what comes out of his mouth. So the Prophet said, is there anything else that will cause people to be thrown on their noses in the fire of Jahannam? إِلَّا حَصَائِدَ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala an, he used to sit in the reign of his khilafat and he used to hold his tongue. He just used to hold on to it. Lest I say something that I'm not supposed to say. Lest I utter something that I'm not supposed to utter. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala an, he used to say, if anything deserves to be imprisoned in this dunya, it's the tongue. That if only we were able to take it, put it behind some cages, close the door and lock it up. Such is the devastation of the tongue. That one wrong sentence, one wrong thing, let alone the plethora of how many things we could do with our tongue that causes anger from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that verse, نَخْتِمُ عَلَىٰ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say we will seal our tongues? That this tongue is so evil if it's not controlled, that Allah is saying that I have to control it on that day as well. That even on the day of judgment, I'll seal it first. Before this Ibn Adam starts to use his tongue in the wrong way on that day as well. Lying in front of me and saying, I didn't do this. So seal it right from the beginning. So that the evil effects of the tongue cannot manifest on the day of judgment. So how important is it that we control our tongues in this dunya? That we control what we say, how we say it, who we talk about. And there are so many different evil uses of the tongue. And inshallah, what I thought to myself is the post-Fajr will be used to pick up some of those things and to discuss and to look at how to protect ourselves from the different sins of the tongue, whether it's ghiba, whether it's backbiting others, whether it's slandering others, whether it's, the Prophet ﷺ described namima, taking tales from one person to the other. The Prophet ﷺ said, Man kana and a person who's two-faced presents one face in front of a person here and then goes somewhere else, and about that same person something else is coming out of that tongue. Man kana dha wajhayni fi dunya kana lahu lisanani min an-nari yawm al-qiyamah. Whoever is two-faced in this world, Allah will give him two tongues of fire on the day of judgment. Lying, slandering, so many, a plethora of sins that we're so easily caught up in. And one important thing to note is that it's not only the verbalization of the sins. So for example, you take something like speaking ill of other people, ghiba. Ghiba doesn't consist that you only verbalize it. If I speak ill by text, by messaging someone ill about, it's under the same context. So it's not, especially in today's day and age where talking has become less in one sense, but then it's taken up by text messaging instead. So understanding how the Prophet ﷺ has prohibited, and the reason why he's prohibited these things is they're devastating for our iman. Tremendously devastating. And how it takes a person, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, that the sins of the tongue will cause a person to be cast into the fire of Jahannam, face first. The wording of the hadith is, on his nose, flung into the fire of Jahannam. So the tongue it can be a very evil limb. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever is able to safeguard for me two things, أَضْمَنُ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ, I safeguard for that person his Jannah. If you promise me to protect two things, I promise to protect for you your Jannah. So the Prophet ﷺ then retorted and remarked, then the two things to protect is مَا بَيْنَ لِحْيَيْ وَمَا بَيْنَ فَخِذَيْ, that the limb between the two jawbones, and to protect one's chastity. These two things you protect, I protect for you your Jannah. So it's tremendously easy to slip up with the tongue. And the sins of the burden that one carries with what they say, we don't realize. And what's the reason why it's so easy to sin with the tongue? The reason why it's easy is because the manifestation of all of our emotions, any emotion you take, the manifestation in the correct or the negative manner starts with the tongue. So if you get angry, someone causes you anger. The manifestation of the anger is then with your tongue. If there's illicit relationship, the speaking starts with the tongue. Every emotion within us, its manifestation is with the tongue. And so it's tremendously easy to make a mistake with that. And we're very casual. We're very casual of how we speak, what we speak about, who we speak to, what is the conversation that takes place. We're very casual of how we speak about other people. We're very casual of, for many of us, we don't consider the sins of a tongue as something that's significant. We don't consider speaking bad about somebody something that Allah is going to hold me accountable for. We don't think that. We don't think that when I use my tongue against or about somebody, that Allah can hold me accountable for that. Very simple understanding of this is the concept of backbiting. The concept of backbiting is in the Quran, it's in Hadith, it's considered one of the most detestable things a person can do. In fact, Allah has described it as eating the flesh of a dead carcass. So if something has died and it's rotting, or your brother, it's taking the flesh off of his body and consuming it. Yet people very easily engage in ghibah. What is ghiba? Backbiting is to speak ill about somebody behind their back. So what if what somebody is talking about somebody else, what if that's true? So if you're speaking about somebody else behind their back, but what you're saying is true, that is when it's ghibah. If it's false, you're actually slandering the person. You're doing buhtan. It is considered ghibah when the thing is true, but it's not permissible. Many times people engage in it, and if you're reminded, we see, well, doesn't matter, what I'm saying is true. Allahu Akbar, that's when it is ghibah. Hazrat Mufti Taqi Uthmani, Damat Barakatum, he says, to make that statement, that it doesn't matter, what I'm saying is true, is actually violating the verse of the Quran about ghibah. And saying, I don't accept the meaning of ghibah as Allah has put it, because in my mind, it's okay to do it in this manner. One of the sins, ifsha'us sir, when subhanallah, taking one person's secret and telling somebody else about it. One of the greatest sins in Islam. And no, we don't care about. We have no respect whatsoever for other people. So khair, inshallah, the post-Fajr will be a look at these different sins. And how to protect ourselves from engaging in them. And because the tongue has two uses, either we use it for good or bad, after Dhuhr, inshallah, we'll be discussing the good things that we can do with our tongue, inshallah. So what are the practices that we can make use of with our tongue to gain reward? Now, after Fajr is to avoid sin, after Dhuhr to gain reward, inshallah. Allah give us all the understanding. وآخر الدعوة الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت